Morton-Gattullo, and you are watching Warehouse 34. And this is a new show on Staten Island Community TV. And our first guest, one of my favorite people, and most of you know her, and if you don't, you should. And we are here with Pamela Silvestri from the Staten Island Advance. How are you, Pam?
I'm doing very well, and thank you so much for having me. What a nice honor to be here, and congratulations on the show. This is a great idea.
Thank you. Thanks for being the first guest.
I'm honored, truly honored, so thank you.
There's a reason why you are the first guest, because everybody knows I love food, and it is a big part of my life. Although I do not cook, I love to enjoy food, and there is nobody who knows food the way you do, especially in Staten Island.
Oh, thank you.
So tell everybody who you are with the Staten Island Advance.
Well, I am the food editor and food critic for the Staten Island Advance. We are on SILive.com, and the newspaper has been really great, especially during the pandemic, in terms of food coverage, and our team at the Advance has done everything we can to make sure that we keep small businesses and restaurants and such, open and communicating and expressing what they're doing with specials and who's open, who's closed, and so on and so forth. But one thing is that during the pandemic, it was actually March 16th, 2020, and I really felt like we were kind of slipping into the dark when we had the news that restaurants were going to be closed. So I said to my husband, I want to do something, and I just want to make sure that everybody's communicating. I remembered what it was like during Hurricane Sandy, where literally like the lights went out for an entire week, pretty much, in our home at least, and it was such a tale of two cities. On Staten Island, like one side of the island completely devastated and, not knowing what's going on. So I didn't want that to happen again. But anyway, so what happened was I sat at my kitchen table and I did a little broadcast on Facebook. And that actually turned into a show that we have at the Advance on the Facebook platform. It's called The Dish. And we do this every Wednesday. We go into a different restaurant every Wednesday.
People love The Dish. They talk to me about The Dish.
Oh, nice.
I mean, sometimes people ask me, are you here because of The Dish? And I just think it's a great way for people to see different places that they can explore, or just to know what's new at some of the places that they do go to. I mean, you do a comprehensive coverage of restaurants, but your body of work is because you've always loved the food industry, and your husband also is a chef. I mean, it's pretty much part of your whole life.
Well, yeah, we actually, my roots go back to Manhattan with restaurants. My Uncle Jim had a restaurant on the Upper East Side of Manhattan called Jim McMullen's, and that was in the 70s and 80s. He was a Ford model, actually, and he had a following. He opened a restaurant initially with partners. It was called Harper's. I remember when that restaurant opened when I was a little girl, going in there with my grandmother. And then when he opened his own restaurant, which was McMullen's, he had a backer. This guy was fantastic, helped him out quite a bit. And then eventually my uncle had this nice following of we had the Steinreiters, the Yankees. After the U.S. Open, a lot of the tennis players would come to the restaurant. And when I was really little, I have a very fond memory of an Atari baseball game being launched at the restaurant. And George Brett came over and, picked me up and said, "Hey, little girl, do you like baseball?" And I was like, no idea about baseball. No idea what you're talking about. I know restaurants, I know food. But anyway, that was a great childhood. My mother was the bookkeeper at the restaurant, so I got to go into the restaurant pretty much every day during the summer.
So you always grew up, though, in every aspect of the restaurant, because I know from places that you've owned also that you've been involved in every aspect of it. Yeah. It's not just the front or the back of the house. I mean, you're well versed in every area.
Well, I'd like to be. The most important thing, I think, in anybody's job is to make sure that you know what you're doing, right? And actually, when I had the restaurant, American Grill, I didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. So from the beginning, I wanted to make sure that I worked at every single station. I worked the dish station, and I understood how it worked, and from even how to kind of fix it a little bit. And also we had, for instance, one time the salad girl who did this garde manger work, for desserts and the cold station, she didn't show up to work one day, and so I filled in. I've ever since then, I've always loved to devein shrimp and shell lobsters. Because I could do it, I learned how to do it sort of on the spot and how to do it quickly and easily. And so, those little things are very important.
But do you find when you go to a new place and they just opened, that maybe they're not aware that that's something that they should be doing, that they should learn every aspect of their own establishment so that they can turn around and jump into any position? I would hope that they would know that ahead of time, but I find out 9 times out of 10 that's simply not the case. They don't have a clue, or no one ever told them that this is something that they should know, or at least have a general idea of how to operate.
It's very interesting because I see a lot of people who have no background in food, jumping into the food service business. I think the most important thing, though, especially if you're not from the food service arena, is and I like it when owners are very personable. Obviously, they're hands-on. I mean, I see that like a lot on Staten Island, where they don't know what they're doing in the kitchen, but they'll come out and they'll be take reservations and manage the phones and things like that. But it's interesting because I feel like, especially with an audience of readers and things like that, I can't write about something that I just don't understand and I just don't know. So it's the same thing with food. Like if you don't, and it's very interesting. You can't sing an opera. For the first time at the Met. You need to have lots of practice, and you need to kind of be cultivated for something like that. And it's the same thing with everybody wants to be on Food Network, or you want to be a food critic or whatever. I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. Food is a science, and I don't think it's like brain surgery, right? It's something very important. It's a life or death situation, and food is like that too. It's not only a science, but you can really hurt people if you don't know how to do it well. You can.
That's so important. That is really so important to know.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes I'll go to a new place, and then I look at them and I say, I wish you had a restaurant coach. Not so much, the consultants that come in, but just a coach or somebody like a mentor who would sit with them and turn around and tell them, this is what you really should know. It's not just the textbook example of how to operate. It is the depth of knowledge that you should have in all the other areas that just kind of comes natural to you, I guess, because of that experience with your mom and your uncle and the family. You just absorbed it by being involved in it at a young age. It just becomes second nature. I
think it's a little osmosis too, and it's funny, very funny, because I have always found that when I'm afraid of something, it's like I don't want to be afraid of anything. I don't want to be afraid of standing in a room and having somebody ask me questions and I really don't know what I'm talking about. That's my fear, I guess, right? So in any case, I was on Beat Bobby Flay. I was a judge on Beat Bobby Flay.
I wanted to bring that up, but I wanted to...
My whole 3 seconds of fame on this show. I get more people that come up to me and say oh my gosh, I saw you on Beat Bobby Flay.
I thought you were great.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
They said about 3 words, and it was the time of my life. I really had a wonderful time. But it was interesting. I was really trying to to absorb everything and soak in all the details and think, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And, I was trying to be calm about it. There are 2 gentlemen that I was the judge with on the show were practiced. They had been there before. They kind of knew the routine. I really did not know what I was doing, and I was a deer in the headlights, I felt. But, going back behind the scenes and behind the stage, and things like that, what they initially did was you had to try the food beforehand and kind of determine what was the better dish, and so then when you go on the air, you know what you're talking about. So that's the same thing as being practiced a little bit. But when I tasted that dish on the show for the first time, the woman who was the competitor of Bobby Flay was so good and so competent. And truly knew her stuff. It was such a joy to see the whole show. I didn't know, beforehand, what she was thinking, what she was doing, or how I never even saw the show before, actually, from its entirety. So I really didn't know what to expect. So anyway, so she was amazing, and I saw when I saw the show, it was about arroz con pollo, right? So it's a Spanish dish. So you could see in the beginning of the show that Bobby Flay it didn't look like he was in his wheelhouse. Again, this is when I'm watching it on Super Bowl Sunday in 2022 or whatever. And but anyway, what was interesting when I first tasted that dish that this woman made, it brought me back to my days. I used to be my husband and I used to run cafeterias. We ran 13 cafeterias in the Archdiocese of New York and beyond. And when you when you master a cafeteria or when you work in that line of business, it's absolutely crazy because you have to get the food out and such, and you learn so much, and you also get to know your colleagues very well. We had a lot of women on our staff who were Puerto Rican and from South America and such, and I learned a lot from them with cooking. And I remember going to the Bronx to go visit one of the employees. They had a party. She had a family party. We went, and she was so happy to see it. So we opened the door, and she said, "Oh, boss, you came, yes." And me and my husband are there, and as soon as what's coming out of the oven is a pernil, and then she's like making a plate, and she had a arroz con pollo. That was also something that was just coming out to the table, and that was the first time I had ever had that dish. And when I tasted it on Beat Bobby Flay, it just brought me back to being in the Bronx, and
because it was authentic.
Yeah.
It was not someone who's not really, who didn't grow up with it.
Right.
They just don't have that flavor for it.
Exactly.
But I have to say, I was impressed with. I mean, Bobby is a character, and he's always joking, and he's gregarious and outgoing and funny. But he was very gracious also.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it looked like a wonderful experience for for everybody involved. That he was gracious, and the girl won because that experience was, she was just better at that.
Yeah.
But
remarkable.
Right now I'm a little hungry, and I'm trying to think that maybe we should have lunch soon. But I happen to love that dish, and if it's not made authentically, it's not something that I'm going to really, really, really love. What is it that you love? Like, what is your go-to dish for yourself on a personal level?
Well, I actually, when I'm not eating professionally, I eat the same things all the time at home, and I do that because I'm worried as I'm getting older. I just, you don't burn as many calories, and there's only so much you can do at the YMCA. But I eat the same things all the time at home. My go-to dish, honestly, is it's called Ezekiel bread, and I have 2 slices of Ezekiel bread, and I have some kind of fish. Generally, that's like breakfast, lunch, like salmon or tuna fish, believe it or not. And I also, if I could eat any way, I would probably just eat either fish or be a vegan, because
really,
I really think it's just a healthier way of eating is a plant-based diet and whole foods and things like that. So
I mean, logically I know that, but I just can't. I really love red meat. I know it's not something I'm supposed to be eating.
I know, I love it too.
I love fish, I love chicken, I love red meat. I mean, I love food. I especially love food that's presented beautifully and prepared and given to me because, again, I'm not the person who cooks in the kitchen. Full disclosure, my husband is the one in our life. Steve just does everything, and Steve and Pam are old friends. And when I was dating Steve, I've told the story before, I invited him over for dinner, and I think he assumed that I meant that I was going to cook for him. That was never, ever, ever put on the table. I never made that offer. No. Would you like to come over and eat? Not, would you like me to cook for you? Those are 2 different statements.
My gosh.
And so I asked him what he liked, and so I ordered, Bay Ridge back in the day, we had something called Doorstep cuisine, and you could order an app from a restaurant, an entree from another, dessert from another.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they would go around and collect everything and then deliver it to you. So I ordered, what I thought and what he had conveyed that he liked. And I plated it on the beautiful china, and it was, of course it was great because it was made by wonderful chefs and, outstanding restaurants. And poured, beautiful champagne and wine and everything. And he's sitting there and he's looking at my china and he's drinking out of my Waterford glasses, and everything was just top marks, He said, "This is amazing." I said, "Isn't it?" Not being like, "Oh, I made this, isn't it?" No, like, "Isn't it?" Because someone else made it. And he said, "Can I have some more?" And I went, "I'm sorry, what? More? Tell me, I'll call and see if they're still open."
Oh my gosh.
And he said, "Well, what do you mean? Didn't you make it?" I was like, "I'm sorry, did you misunderstand the invitation?" The invitation was to consume something in my house that would be plated, prepared by someone else, not me. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't have gas in my kitchen." And he gave me the look you just gave me. I said, "I don't. I mean, I worked all the time, and in Bay Ridge I had a beautiful apartment, and I needed storage, and so I stored things in my, cabinets. I didn't turn on the gas because, electric, and I paid electric, and my heat and hot water was provided by the building. What did I need the gas for? I never used it."
Lovely.
Eventually, I had to turn the gas on for Steve, though.
Well, that's I went to your wedding, and you had an absolutely beautiful wedding. That was
Thank you.
Lovely. The boathouse and.
Thank you, thank
Really?
you. I'm so sad about the boathouse, reading about the boathouse right now.
I know.
I really hope that something turns around, because I think that location is amazing. I don't think the Central Park landscape in particular would be the same without the boathouse. I think it's an important place that really needs somebody to step up and say, no, this cannot close, or cannot close permanently, because I'm reading some articles now that are saying they're not sure if it could ever reopen or it will reopen. That is heartbreaking, not because I got married there, but because it's a beautiful establishment. And that lake, I mean, so other people should be able to do what I did, come across on a gondola with an opera singer, you know, and go right on that beautiful deck and have the wedding of their dreams. It shouldn't just be, you know, it's a great memory, now we're going to move on.
You know, it's funny because like at Stonehouse at Clove Lake Park, that is
I love the Stonehouse.
Such a pretty venue. You know, it's like a park is such a perfect setting for, you know, to have a restaurant. And you know, I often dream of, you know, yesteryear when Paul Montella and his crew had the parsonage at historic Richardtown. I thought that was very beautiful and charming, clever, and I was dating my husband at the time. We used to go there often. It was a very nice setting, you know, that kind of
beautiful places, though. I mean, so much so that we could remember them and talk about them now. And it's sad when a place doesn't, you know, last, or for whatever reason. I really thought that place was exceptional as well. Yeah. It was really pretty.
It was very nice. And, you know, I get a lot of mail from readers who are not from Staten Island any longer. They've moved to Florida. And they're, you know, hankering for some nostalgia, restaurant nostalgia. So you're talking about restaurants that, you know, we miss, or, you know, are very much part of the fabric of places like Staten Island. I miss the Riviera. I mean, I remember the Riviera Chateau. That was, it's now actually, it's the Riviera Chateau, I think, shopping complex with Domenico's Pizzas in there, and there's a Burger King.
But you're right, that too, you know? That was another great place. I mean, if you had to pick one place, and we were going to leave now, just jump off this show and not go, what place would be you know what, I can't ask you that because of what you do, and I don't want people to say, oh, she loves one above the other. But if we were to jump off and go to Manhattan, and it's not Staten Island, so it's not playing favorites with anyone, what place would you want to go to today?
You know, I guess it would be like an Andrew Carmelini place, or maybe I think I'd skip over Manhattan and go right to Brooklyn. I've loved the River Cafe. What a charming restaurant. And I just recall, you know, years ago before children, going at sunset, you know, sometimes, and listening to the piano music, and having a great cocktail and a great glass.
But you remember the Dom Salvatore, right? You met him with Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he used to come to our Christmas parties with his family every year.
Oh, yes, yes.
And Dom was at the River Cafe as an institution. So Steve used to take me there on dates, and he was with us forever and ever and ever. That's an amazing place. That really is. I mean, that's changed so much down there, though. Oh,
big time, big time. And, you know, I just remember also treating my children. We went out on New Year's Eve. It's my younger son's birthday, so we'd go to a different place every year. This is the first year that we went out of Staten Island, and we went to Peter Luger's, and that's quite an experience. And that's really a one-of-a-kind New York restaurant, truly. You know, and then you could smell like the woodwork and you know, kind of the bar area. You know, there's that smell of the soft drink beverages and beer, and you know, that's like the hustle and bustle, and it's just so busy. I just love that about restaurants, you know.
I have to tell you, that place, just mentioning the name, I could drool for the slab bacon.
Yeah,
oh my God. Yes.
And you can't repeat that in the kitchen, right? You can't replicate that, you know, even if you make it at home.
We have one friend who comes pretty close, who's a chef, but honestly, no. I've never experienced that anywhere else, and my whole life we go to Peter Luger's in a group several times a year, and I always went there on my own with other friends and stuff, but no, that bacon is exceptional.
It's pretty good stuff.
It really, really is.
So, you know, actually Hook and Rail on Staten Island, it's a butcher shop in Travis. They do some beautiful work there. Not only handiwork in terms of carving meat and such, but they do a beautiful pulled. I mean, the cuts of meat are incredible. So anyway, we're talking about doing things at home where you can buy like the very best premium things, and I get just from readers too, like where can I get restaurant quality, whatever, and La Bella Marketplace on Ellis Street. I love that place. I can drop a paycheck in there.
So I told you I spend a lot of time at the beach club that I belong to with my friends, and we all take turns. So I'm going between Pastosa and La Bella. And again, I don't cook, but I grab everything. They have a lot of things for people like me to grab and go, and I just love those places. I mean, there isn't anything that I couldn't grab and just sit at the beach club and just say, this is the best summer of my life. Breezy Point, the ocean, great cocktails, great food. I think that we're really lucky that we live in New York because a lot of people don't experience this in other areas. And when they move out of New York, they'll turn around and say, I can't get a bagel, or I can't get pizza, or there isn't a La Bella or a Pastosa or something like that, or all the other places that are out there. I'm just naming two, but I really have never been to any place bad in Staten Island, and I'm originally from Brooklyn, so I'm kind of picky with this stuff. And I have to say Staten Island pretty much is almost as good as Brooklyn, because nothing will ever be as great as Brooklyn, because that's just how I feel about it. But we're pretty lucky being on the Northeast, in particular New York City. When you travel other areas of America, I mean, they have no clue of what our food tastes are and how to present it, or even how to create it. Well, a bagel, something that should be so simple. I get it, it's the water, but there are so many different ways to butcher that bagel that you just say, my goodness, who taught you how to make a bagel, and why? Why are you doing this? And I remember feeling that way in Vegas. I just looked at the bagels. I was like, I surrender. I don't want a bagel anymore. I'm all done. No bagels.
That's something that we do pretty well actually on Staten Island, our bagels. I love Royal Crown bagels. I don't know if you've ever had a bagel there. That's very unique bagel,
but there's
without a doubt.
Cinnamon toast crunch bagel at Panera that I have to that is definitely Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Oh.
I have like a routine, and it has to be lightly toasted. No.
Gotcha.
No, I go in there and they lightly toast it and put butter on it, and that's kind of amazing for me with my iced lattes.
Nice.
I mean,
you're making me hungry.
So now tell me, we cannot fall in love with food without, having what complements it so nicely, wine and all the, cocktails and beverages. So when you go out and have dinner, what would be your choice of beverage? Like, do you like champagne? Are you a Prosecco? Or are you more of a wine, or maybe spirits?
I do enjoy my wine. If I'm going to have carbs, it's going to be from wine. I think as we get older too, like I just don't like that. I don't like the booze drink, like anything really boozy or hard liquor.
Are you white or red?
I like both. I like to start with, if I could like have an unlimited budget or something like that, or like unlimited, liver enzymes. I would start with a champagne, and a real champagne, nice bubbly, and then I move on to like a white wine. I don't like Sauvignon Blanc, actually. It's not my favorite, and I think part of it is because when I had the restaurant, one of our customers described the scent of it as cat pee, and I was like, oh yeah, it does smell like that. So I generally don't like Sauvignon Blanc in terms of white wines, but like a nice buttery Chardonnay, and then move on to like a Pinot Noir, and then maybe move up to a nice Cabernet Sauvignon, and maybe another one after that, right?
That looks like a great night in the making.
So there you go. And of course, it's nice to have things with food. You could see the chemistry of food on the palate, which is very nice when you get a nice wine.
I think the experience of going out should always be, tonight is it, and this is great. No, whether or not I'm sitting in a drive-through or if I'm sitting in a great restaurant. But what I particularly like is the idea of going out and doing, like tastings and having flights and things like that, so that I can sort of graze and I can get a little bit of everything, and then decide I want to have more of something later on, and have it accompanied by a flight of something. So I think that's a lot of fun. I also like the idea of places that are like the butcher shop restaurant concept, so I know where my meat came from. I particularly like seeing, all of the aged beef and things like that. Most people don't want to see that, but me, I'm just look at it like I could, be one of those like stickies on the wall, like drooling over, prosciutto or something like that. It's a great thing. But so I think the flight concept is a very cool thing. So you go from all different wines.
I would do that, or I would suggest actually, since we have two really great breweries on Staten Island, to if you want to do your own flight tasting or whatever, Killsborough, which is a microbrewery in Craft House Restaurant, which specializes in soul food and barbecue. That's wonderful. And Killsborough's opening up actually a brewery right next to Snug Harbor, and also Flagship. You go to Flagship and they have a bunch of several styles on tap. And what's really great, and which I wish chefs would do more of on Staten Island, is seasonal fare. And you talk about living in New York and having access to produce and everything else. One thing that we do have too, and in the Northeast, is this great change of seasons, and inspiration from the seasons. When I was a kid, people used to burn leaves, and that crisp smell of fall and getting ready for cold weather, and duck dishes and things like that. I wish we would do more of true inspiration from farms and local and things like that. So
you know what? I agree. I like that. I mean, I think that a big plus is having the Heritage Farm at Snug Harbor Cultural Center. But I do believe that we should try to bring as much as we can, especially from upstate New York. Support the local farmers and things like that. But they should be represented more in the restaurants. We should know where our food comes from.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt.
Be able to experience all of that.
When we had American Grill, actually one of the things that my husband and I used to do is we used to, on the weekends, again, for 4 children, we used to drive up to upstate New York. Actually, we'd go up like on a Thursday into Friday. We'd buy a whole bunch of stuff at farms like in upstate New York.
Everyone needs to know, when anybody in the restaurant business says weekends, it's never Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, because that's when you're, engaged with the public. Weekends mean Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, but never, ever, ever Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Absolutely. And just from being in the restaurant business, there's no such thing as a holiday, truly.
Yes.
But anyway, but we used to go up to like Goshen, New York, and you put the money in the mailbox and take the produce. And I had some of the best melons actually from the Hand Melon Farm. It was absolutely wonderful, and we served that at the restaurant. And we'd serve like a honeydew soup or something like that, something inspirational from the seasons.
And that's interesting. That's interesting when you go to a place, and I remember it well, having all those different soups and stuff like that. Something that's so out of the box and different, but yet it's local and delicious, much more than you would ever think just by the name. When you have it, you're like shocked.
Yeah.
Your palate is shocked, and you're saying, ooh, I have to do this again.
It's good stuff.
Absolutely. I go up to New Paltz a lot, or I did, because Madison was in college up at New Paltz, and we would go to different local farms there, and I never got the idea of putting the money in the little basket and just taking what I wanted, because I'm too much of a New Yorker.
We just recently went up to Chester, New York, historic Chester, New York, for a ball game, because my younger guy won in Little League. They advanced up to this state tournament. We didn't win, but anyway, but we did have some good ice cream. Yes,
but the experience.
It was nice to travel and nice to go up to a place where you're not only eating the local food, but you're looking out the window and you can see, the farm where the potatoes came from and such, or the ice cream. It was just a charming trip. So it's good to get out of Staten Island occasionally, but I honestly prefer that. I like my Staten Island food, I should say. So
I do too, and I'm, I think Staten Island and Brooklyn sort of now are basically the same for me. The restaurants and stuff like that, I can find what I can get at home here, because most of the people from home have moved here and brought their food with them. So go out there and do more things and come back and share it all with us.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're marvelous.
Love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you again.